we're gonna go over the squat. So just talk about like the difference between raw and equipped, and then maybe like how you get set up, how you use the monolift, and things like that.
So, if you don't, this is a monolift. It makes your life a lot easier because you don't have to walk anywhere. The biggest thing that I find for people who are new to geared lifting is they don't set up properly. And if your setup is jacked up, then it's just going to translate and make everything harder than it needs to be, right? I'm sure you've seen people kind of do like one of these things. They're like, oh, okay, no, we're not going to do that. Right? So your setup should look the same whether you have an empty bar or your top setup. It should be, you should go through your checklist the same way, whether it's an opener, a third attempt, or 135. All right, that's how it should be. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you because they're trying to sabotage you. And the reason for that is because we talked about it before, right? We want to practice good technique, good habits, right? The gear is all about being technically sound. So if you throw your briefs on and you look completely different with your briefs on than raw, right? It's all going to be a clusterfuck when your suit goes on, your straps go up, it's time to squat, it's time to hit, a full squat, or, tight E-wraps, all that stuff. So personally, my setup is always the same. I'll show you mine. Obviously, like I said before, you don't need to set up like I do. You can set up however you want. You can do, make your own tweaks. This is just what I found to be the most beneficial for me. So what I do is I actually set my feet first. So rewind. Mine, when I squat raw, my feet are here. A little wider shoulder width, toes out, whatever. When I squat in my gear, I'm all the way out here. Right? And the only way that I'm able to do that is because of the gear. Right? If I tried to squat anything heavy this wide without any briefs on, I don't even know what would happen. I don't even want to think about it. So the reason why, like we said before, shorter range of motion, the wider you are, the more stretch you're going to get, the more tightness you're going to get out of the briefs, the more pop you're going to get out of the hole. Okay, so maybe we'll drop one. Yeah, so I set my feet up first. I don't know if you guys want to come on the side, it's up to you, but you want to make sure that your feet, right, when you get under the bar, that the bar is going to be over, I like to say, the middle of your foot. Right? If you're too far like this, you're going to be, when you stand up with it, you're going to have to do this, and you're making it harder on yourself. If you're too far forward, when you stand up, you're going to fall backwards. You're not even going to get a chance to...
So part of it's balance play, and also, at first, I see a lot of people, arching it out versus actually just standing up.
Yeah.
So maybe talk about that.
So you want to make your unrack as easy as possible. Right? You don't want to add another half a lift to your squat. So I see people, they'll set the rack all the way down here, and they'll stand up this far. And it's like you're doing a half squat to then do a full squat. So you want to make sure that everything you're doing is, I'm trying to think of the word. Efficient.
You're not wasting energy.
Yeah, you want to make sure everything's efficient. You want to make the least amount of movements that you have to. Okay, so when I set up, I'll just go through mine. So I set my feet, right? Come on the bar. Somebody probably has to push me because my gear's tight. I'll come through to make sure that I'm where I need to be, right? And then I bring myself under the bar, right? As soon as I get under the bar here is what a lot of people miss, is I make sure that my feet, and I'm sure John is going to talk about this later, all the pressure, see what happens? The bar is starting to wedge out. So what I do is I get under the bar and I start screwing my feet into the ground, right? If you were to, let's do it again, right? I'm trying, and the way that I'd say it is you're trying to rip a paper towel you're stepping on, right? If a lot of people say knees out, knees out is not the cue. The cue is spread the floor. You're trying to...
That will get your knees in the right position.
Yeah, spreading the floor, put your knees in the right position. Look where my knees are here, right? They're out, they're tracking outside of my feet, right? So the angle is actually outside of my feet. And that's gonna put you in the position where you need to go when you finally sit back. All right, so wedge under, screw your heels in. Right, if you were to look, and what some people I know do is they actually lift their big toes off the ground. Right, so that their big toes are off the ground because all of their weight is distributed to the outsides of their feet. Right, anything you want to add? Just
Yeah, I think that twisting the ground apart concept is really important for like just rooting your feet in the ground. Your balance is going to be really important. So now, if you are somebody that has trouble sitting back and like loading your hips and sitting back into the suit, that's why a lot of people will cue heels, like behind your heels, but really the weight's over your middle of the foot. But you may need to think about heels to get that weight, close to your weight shift to come back. So it's just you're kind of over exaggerating it to get you like in the right position.
I think the one thing that, especially new multi-ply lifter, you should exaggerate shit. I think, especially to kind of get that that good sound technique, right? Really exaggerate sitting back, right? Just not with your top sets. You're not going to do this, but really exaggerate. Getting the weight to your heels is going to put you in a good position. Right, when you're benching, really exaggerating, flaring your elbows is really going to put you in a good position when you start. So, like all that little stuff, is things that need to be done over and over and over again till it becomes second nature. Where you're not going to have to think, oh, exaggerate sitting your hips back. Where it's just going to be a normal, and you're just going to go. So here we're under, we're screwed in.
And you can see, like, first there's a process that it's over and over again. So, like, when I grab it, I'll grab, with my left hand first. And so everything should be kind of the same, like a golf swing. It's just over and over.
Same thing, over and over again. So under, I have to pull it down, I'm going to wedge it out. And everything spreading the floor, right? And your unrack should just be a very solid, very quick, very easy stand up.
And I'll say, like, from the side, like, he's not overarched, but he's very solid. It's tall. It's like his trunk's engaged as a pillar. So everything is, his rib cage and his pelvis is stacked. So he's
it's not this.
Yeah, so a lot of people arch. You want your chest up, but you don't want it to be overextended. And now there's a break in your spine. You don't want to be looking down or flexed either. So it's just somewhere in between, a neutral position.
I think of it, and I tell people that you want to try and bring your lats into your obliques. You want to try and make that one solid thing. So you're not, like John said, you're not arching this way. You're trying to bring everything down. So you're pulling. Another cue that I'll give people is you're trying to do a pull down with the bar in your back. So by getting into this position, your lats are tight, but you're not doing this, right? Everything's braced downwards.
Cool. So once you unrack the bar. When are you getting your air? What's like kind of,
So 2 trains of thought. I know some people squat differently. When I first started training, couldn't keep one breath. It never worked. I would always go to sleep mid-rep. So I would go 2 breaths.
So take a breath before you unrack.
Yeah. So typically, or before recently, I would take a breath, lock everything in, stand up, second breath, and then squat. Now I just take 1.
So you build up capacity in order to...
Correct. That's not something, you're not going to be able to handle that pressure on day 1, right? And be able to hold your breath for that long. Because if you've watched any...
It's a longer eccentric, so you have to keep that in mind. Can you actually hold your breath?
Can you hold your breath for 15 seconds with 1,000 pounds on your back? Most people can't do that. So you have to take 2 breaths. Right? But understand, and this is something that I when I first started lifting had a very big problem with, is where and how you're taking that breath. Right? You should not be breathing into your chest. It should be into your stomach. Belly out, right? Belly button out, belly into the belt are all cues that you'll hear, right? And that's because, think about it, you stand up and you try and take a breath. You have a bar on your back. That bar has weight on it, right? It's gonna be really hard to try and get air into your chest, right? Really hard to do that, right? So it's not breathing into your chest, it's pushing out. I don't know if you guys can see, but
We'll also see the lack of movement here. So I see like sometimes people will be, you're also creating moment into the bar, and that's you're gonna have to restabilize that. It's wasted energy, it's wasted movement.
the bar shouldn't be moving when you take a breath. It should be.
So everything's just drawing down. So I like the cue of like, kind of pulling. Everything's
You want to try and bend in your head. I mean, it's not gonna happen. You want to try and bend the bar around you to make a U and a C. I don't know.
A rainbow.
A rainbow. Okay, a rainbow over yourself to be in. So you're trying to do this to be in this position to keep everything tight.